Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the POMCAST. Today, we're diving into the future of search advertising and how Google, Microsoft, and Meta are shaping strategy in a world that's driven by automation, lots of AI, and shifting user behavior. On the hot seat, once again, and always one of my favorites, Mike Shaug, the founder and CEO at Premier Online Marketing.
Hey, Sean.
He's an absolute super strategist. Mike, hi, how are you?
Doing good.
Yeah, good.
Ready for the weekend.
Yes. Aren't we all always ready for the weekend? Like, I think we are.
Indeed.
Are you ready to jump into some of this stuff? We're going to touch a little bit on the AI and kind of what's going on. I want to hear your perspectives on PerformanceMax. It's obviously been a hot topic for the Google environment for a long time. Lots of automation, lots of you have to do it this way. And I always love it because you can unpack the reality behind some of how the platforms like to nudge or guide people's ad dollars. So the first thing I want to really start with is I want to get you to describe what you would consider to be today's current state when it comes to Google's search advertising ecosystem, particularly share with the audience a little bit on these AI overviews and maybe changes in search results.
Yeah. I mean, things are changing in a massive way. I'll split it into two chunks. Local business search, which I'll talk about next, and then everything else. What is the best recipe for, a crock pot dish, or where do I find something, or how do I do something? Yeah. A lot of that traffic has been absorbed by a bunch of publishers, and they've gotten visits in exchange for the content that they're providing. But now with AI overviews just kind of gobbling all that information and spitting out concise options, we're seeing a major drop off in traffic and clicks and click-through rates across a lot of large websites. In the industries that we work in, we don't really see that so much on the local side of traffic. That seems to be a little bit more AI resistant, or they haven't really gotten to that part of it yet. But we're seeing a lot more stability on the local SEO side. But I mean, obviously, when you change the search engine results page, they're testing different ad placements. The sponsored ad for map listings was always at the top of the three. And just the last week, I've seen it at the bottom, which actually makes it more clickable, I guess. Or, I mean, at least to my eye, I kept seeing that, and I was so annoyed that they were like tricking me into clicking the sponsored ad. So they're changing around a lot of things. Search volume is definitely changing. Anyone that tells you that ChatGPT has not taken a massive bite out of the monthly searches and queries that are done on a daily basis is lying, including Google. They say that there are more searches conducted and that AI is generating more search, which may be true, which from an ad perspective is great because those are all impressions and opportunities to get in front of your user. But people are definitely shifting away from Google as the just how to find it tool to tools that are how to find and get it done or complete the research. So it's definitely changing things. And obviously on the SEO and paid media landscape, things are changing quite a lot this year.
Yeah, it just keeps coming up in conversations that you have with people all the time. So I love that you just kind of tell the truth about what's going on, because there are some people who will say the exact opposite of what you're saying, which is and they are lying. They're absolutely lying. And I get it. Some of them, they're trying to protect turf. I get it. But I want to ask you next get your thoughts on something that, age old, but really important. And that is, share your opinions on search partner, display networks. Should advertisers really be including them? Because some will tell you should, and yet I think you probably have a perspective of maybe there's better options for exclusion. Like there's got to be a balance in it. What do you thought?
So for paid media on the Google side within PMax, you can't exclude them. So they're default opted in. There's no way to opt out of them and have the campaign perform optimally. So that is an area where you're going to get that exposure no matter what, because every account will probably have one PMax campaign. But I certainly think that from search campaigns, They should not have display network targeted. They should not have search partners. Those networks drive a tremendous amount of bot traffic and a lot of fake leads even through those channels. So it can really, especially if you have bid adjustments for cost per lead or ROAS, fake leads will inflate those numbers and it will tell the machine to work in a not optimal way for the actual business objectives. Obviously, the business just wants to get more leads, more leases, more sales. They don't want a report that just looks really pretty, but then they've got a whole bunch of junk in their CRM. So I really personally hate search partners and display networks. I mean, obviously, if you're doing display or top of funnel marketing, display is great. But that's actually where we see the highest amount of fake traffic. And it's just, we've done things on the display side where we have a remarketing campaign and a rep will go in and add an audience that makes sense. And then all of a sudden our impression count goes up by like 100x. And we have like a bunch of these 1-second clicks, because we added in foodies as an interest category in addition to remarketing. And we're like, what did we get from this? And we never see anything really of value. It's just clear that there's a lot of gaming of the AdSense or the GDN network by bots. So we definitely recommend not using it at all because you have to use it within PMax. And then we have some thoughts on improving that as well.
I mean, the notion really has, make sure for the audience, check me on this, but the idea that the platforms that Google wants people to consider, or really they want to even force people through PMax into the search partner network and the expansion within the display network, is really attaching that to, well, there's even more out there beyond just the native Google network. And so for people who are, I don't want, maybe desperate's not the right word, but they're just really keenly focused on omnipresence as much as we can get everywhere without the consideration of, well, some of these expanded areas don't actually have the same value. And I mean, isn't that still the same problem? Is like, there's not the same value.
Yeah.
So
I mean, ultimately it's really cool to show a report that has 1 million impressions on it with a very small amount of spend. But like, did the business's life change during that period? Do they go viral? Is that even enough impressions for people in the local market to say, hey, I see your ad all the time? No, it's not for most markets. So again, like I do think that there's probably a better way to do display marketing. I don't think search partners has any value. And I think the reason why that they're kind of jamming them into PMax is because people were opting out of them for so many years for obvious reasons. I think I'll get into this a little later. I'll kind of outline the channels that I think are the best for traffic and the best for leads.
Okay, so be careful, folks. Those expanded networks, there's a lot of fool's gold out there. Are there things that can be done to eliminate the amount of waste that happens in spend, maybe limiting bot traffic exposure? Are there tactics that can
for accounts that have decent PMax budgets, you definitely want click cease. It just basically limits the amount of bots traffic that you will get. It will eliminate everything, but it will eliminate a lot. We've tested this across a bunch of customers. And then the other thing would be to eliminate, to do negative targeting exclusions, add negatives for countries like India, Pakistan, so on and so forth. As many as you can, to be honest, if you notice that traffic is coming from those particular places, because you lose all control, or a lot of it anyway, once you opt into display and search. In search, you might say, hey, I want to have a 15-mile radius, but once you click those other two buttons, it's just, you're showing up everywhere and anywhere. And that will just kind of open the aperture of the traffic that you will get. And your team will be kind of confused that traffic is so high, but the lead opportunities or quality opportunities are lowered.
Before we get too far and we get past really this PMax area, because some of the things you're sharing here, I think, are very relative to PMax. And for the audience, if you're like, what's PMax? Which you shouldn't be. If you're tuning into anything that Mike Shaug's talking about when he says PMax, you should already be quite familiar with what that is. But I want to just give you some time here, just your general thoughts on PMax. It's been out there for a bit now.
Yeah.
There are some things, as you're even already illustrating, that are really important to know, whether you're going to try to do this yourself or you're working with an agency partner or you're shopping for one, which is just stop, full stop, and just call Mike at Premier Online Marketing. But will you share a little bit about your thoughts here on PMax as it stands today?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely where the puck is going from a product development standpoint. But for all the reasons that I mentioned earlier, specifically them jamming search partners and display networks into keyword search and pretending that the CPC is really great when it's inflated with a bunch of bot traffic and the CRM will be filled with a bunch of fake leads. It's an interesting kind of like all-in-one platform. It's definitely not better than the way search used to perform. But something we are seeing right now is that PMax is getting favored distribution on. So you'll spend a lot faster. You'll spend a lot better. You'll get a lower CPC, of course, because there's display and search partners clicks in there. So that it's definitely the preferred distribution. The problem is it's just very hard to eliminate waste. It's very hard to get full visibility on the keywords that you're spending on. And most businesses have very specific products that they want to show up for and a bunch of stuff that they do not want to show up for. A apartment community might be a good keyword for an apartment community in a very short area. But if Google decides to jam the keywords Section 8, affordable, cheap, then all of those things become traffic that are not valuable to the business. So the inability to have the same level of controls we used to have with search is allowing a lot of waste and a lot of imprecision. A lot of times people, we have clients sometimes in markets that are close to each other and they'll be like, hey, can you tell these guys to stop bidding on my brand term? But it's not really brand. It's just part of the PMax. PMax will grab other brands. It will grab things that are similar to what you're targeting from a keyword standpoint. But it's not going to be precise. So it's definitely, I would think of PMax like a very good display campaign. That would be what I would put it on par to. But I still think currently, and it's changing quickly, so it won't be like this forever, but currently the best traffic that can be acquired is still through the search campaigns. We get less complaints about those specifically. So yeah, that's my little voiceover on PMax.
I'm glad you shared that perspective. I don't get tired of actually hearing your perspective on PMax and really the inner workings of the platforms because you just know it so well. And you and I have known each other for so many years, and I know exactly what type of work ethic you have around delivering. And so your perspective is always one where I just think people aren't going to find a more on point, dead bullseye, straight shot. Maybe uncomfortable to some when you're telling some of the harder truths, but I think really important. And I want to ask the next question around something that comes up a lot with, I'm sure, the clients that you work with when you're prospecting. It certainly comes up in our business when we talk to people, and that is traffic channels relative to sales. Yeah, most people in business and companies, they are almost have a myopic focus on, leads, sales. In your view, what are the best channels for local businesses to drive sales?
So definitely in most markets, there's a lot more traffic that's right at the bottom of the funnel than people think. So I definitely agree with the sentiment to be very myopically focused on the end goal in terms of sales and leads. You obviously need to have more of a full funnel view. But for most dealerships, for most apartment communities, they don't have infinite budgets. So the best channels that you're going to have are definitely still through Google Search, PMax. YouTube is actually really great because you have custom intent audiences. You've got remarketing sequences, and that is a great addition to YouTube. And YouTube, you can drive a lot of great traffic as well. After that, I would say Microsoft ads have actually gotten a lot better. The user experience has come a long way over the last few years. And with the pie of search volume kind of getting split a little bit further, it's actually increasing Microsoft's search presence a bit, because it's not just Microsoft, it's Edge, it's Yahoo, it's AOL. They have a network of sites. And what we are seeing out of Microsoft, and shocking for me, I used to say that the CPCs were lower, cost per, conversion rates won't be as great. It's actually converting on par with Google at a lower cost currently. So I definitely think it's a great opportunity for most businesses that are trying to maximize bottom of funnel sale opportunities. And you're looking for, hey, I do not want to spend this on awareness. I don't want to spend this on eyeballs. I want people that are, going to walk through the door as soon as possible. You still can't beat someone raising their hand and saying, hey, I'm looking for a 2-bedroom apartment in Austin, Texas. That's as low funnel from a user indication standpoint as you're going to get. So that's definitely what I would recommend.
On the other side of that, let's talk about really the other side of that coin, which is the traffic channels that you primarily use for awareness and traffic and perhaps brand exposure or brand awareness. Where would you point people on that?
Because we primarily work in the apartment industry, I would definitely say that from an awareness standpoint, Meta has a lot of value because you can run different types of media against it. You can do videos, you can do static images, carousels, you can do lead forms to drive some conversion value, which I'm always kind of myopically focused on no matter what I'm doing. So I do like YouTube probably a lot more for awareness. You can definitely get leads and sales through it, but from an awareness standpoint, it cannot be beat. It's just a great way to get in front of people in a very targeted way. After that, I would say YouTube and then TikTok. TikTok is kind of purely an awareness play right now. We're not seeing a lot of transaction value from it yet, but I'm sure that will change. But yeah, and then finally, just an awareness, not a traffic or conversion value. Hulu is a great option. They have, you can start out with a budget as low as $500 a month. So you can get some pretty great distribution across really incredible content for a very low price.
Yeah. And what a big media brand that is. So, you know what they say, fish where the fish are.
Yep.
You've touched on Microsoft advertising a little bit. In case you have additional thoughts on this, because this is one of the questions that I had for you, which is specific to Microsoft advertising and them gaining traction, as you've just been mentioning with Edge and Bing and ChatGPT. Are there strategic advantages or are there similarities? There are things there that you're like, hey, don't sleep on this if you're an advertiser considering those networks.
Yeah. I mean, again, if you have budgets where you're spending a good amount on awareness TV, but you would like to drive the same level of value that you're getting out of your best search and PMax campaigns, just take those campaigns, import them over to Microsoft. Huge open-handed slap to the development team. They literally have an import from Google button. It's the biggest button in their user interface. So once you build out your campaigns, you get some optimization over there, then you can move them into Bing, make a few tweaks, and they're good to go. From a optimization standpoint, it's very similar. From a capability standpoint, it's the same. Really the big difference is not in quality of traffic, it's just quantity. And it never really made sense to invest budget in Bing or Microsoft ads, particularly when their share of voice was 9%. But now that it's almost double that, I have very few customers that are getting 18 to 20% impression share in any market they're in. So once you can get to about that 15 to 20% mark, you're a major player. That is a lot of people looking for something. So if you're looking to maximize your opportunities for showing up in front of people asking for exactly what you have to sell, Microsoft ads mirroring what is working on Google is just an absolute no-brainer. I would go there before I would go to Meta or to Hulu or to anything else, because you're going to get the value of impressions that you would get out of a search campaign. Probably want to run some remarketing as well, but you're going to get leads and cost per leads at a very good CPA that's on par, or in some cases better than Google.
Nice. That's good. I'm learning, Mike. Thank you for teaching me as well, keeping me sharp on this topic that I once used to be pretty sharp on. Now I'm not as sharp as you, but
yeah, you gotta relearn your job every 6 months. it gets tiring.
Yeah, trust me. I can relate to that. I want you to put on your hat of being an expert predictor. Is that a word? Predict. Like, I want you to predict the future a little bit, or at least from your very informed and very experienced perspective. I say it all the time. That's one of the greatest, if not the greatest differentiators experience, which you have a lot of. So in this particular question, think about that from making a prediction perspective. What do you think is going to happen in terms of search dominance, right? Google's owned the block for a long, long time. But if you look at Atlas and you look at what you're talking about here with Microsoft and Meta and TikTok and Amazon, and there's a lot going on, more so than you and I have seen in our lifetimes, for sure. Which platform you think is posing the biggest threat to Google's ad dominance, at least in the next, I don't know, couple of years or so? And why do you think that would be?
I think Atlas is going to really cause problems for Google. That just came out this last week. Play with it. It's available on, obviously on MacBooks now, but I'm sure they'll have a desktop plugin soon. Not able to run sponsored ads there just yet, but that is on the roadmap from what I understand. The search experience is on par or better than Google Gemini right now. So I think, and the other reality of the situation is that ChatGPT has 90 million users, right? Across the world. That is a crap load of people that are logging in on a daily basis to use ChatGPT for work or for search. I think that those people, it's a very real possibility that half of those people will make Atlas their primary search engine, probably because it's going to be integrated with their ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. So, and then you can plug in agents, you can have agentic work and all of that stuff. So I do think that this is another potential 20% rival to Google. If I were kind of predicting the future, I think Google is going to grow. I think they're going to be bigger than they are today. But will there be other people that are very large as well that are absolutely challenging them on their percent of search power? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's currently happening. And it's really going to be on Google to figure out how to navigate optimizing their platform for AI and not shooting their ads in the foot, because that's the benefit of ChatGPT is there are no ads. And so Google wants to provide value. It wants to give correct information for the queries that are put in, but people are opting for other places to ask those questions because the answers are better, more elaborate, different. So I do think that, if I had to guess, Microsoft is probably going to stay right where it is, or even lose a little tiny bit of share to whatever happens within new incumbent search engines. But I think over time, Google is going to be a 60% of the search market, still a massive player, still the default number one selection for the next couple of years. After that, it's hard to say. But I think it's going to be a massive shift, which for us as marketers, that's great. This is what we want. We don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket. So I'm excited to see what opportunities emerge as we get these new platforms.
It has been very interesting to watch how fast ChatGPT, but now it's, there are plenty of LLMs that people maybe have more preference for, but just using ChatGPT as an example, and you've referenced them a few times, they took 5 days to get to 1 million users. 5 days. Yeah. They took 2 months to get to 100 million users. And when you compare what's going on with them, with everything else we've seen come down the pathway, Spotify users, Instagram, Dropbox, Netflix, all that, it's not even close. And so this probably just asks you to piggyback a little bit on your last answer. But before we park the episode, I want to get your thoughts on how do you think this maybe reshaping has effect on like keyword strategy and content creation?
Yeah. I mean, you have to think more in the lines of like keyword clusters versus kind of exact keywords. Yeah. So like for us, when we're doing keyword targeting, we'll broaden out a little bit to kind of give a little bit more, give us the ability to capture a few different other permutations of the same keyword. The other thing to note is keyword data that is returned for organic or free traffic is diminishing. So you don't have as good level insight as you did before, and this has been ongoing for a really long time, ever since Hummingbird, when we first got the not set category of traffic, which is 90% of all traffic. So it's sorry, I don't know if I answered your question, but it's definitely...
No, it does. Like, yeah, I think, I don't think a lot of people are even thinking like keyword clusters and the type of content. Like, you have to
you have to show up in more keywords in more places. You're not going to have full visibility on what you are showing up for all the time, or what keywords are driving the traffic, because the analytics platforms are deliberately trying to be less transparent about it, using a shield, a really bad one of, hey, we want to respect user data and privacy, which is absolutely not true. So it's definitely an interesting situation. My hope is that as more ad platforms develop, they'll give much more precision for marketing to enable great results without huge expenditures, because that's the problem, is that waste is expensive and most businesses can't afford that. So my hope is that Google will become a better platform as other entrants come into the market, but we'll see. We are on everything. We try everything, and we have pilots going all the time across all different channels. And it's definitely, we're at a phase where it's no longer wise for any customer from a paid or free traffic standpoint to be Google only or Google focused. You really need to diversify focus. You really need to look at LLMs. You have to look at the Microsoft ecosystem, because those are all huge chunks and pockets of opportunity that you don't want to ignore.
I think you're right. I think the way you're seeing the future is accurate. I think one of the reasons why you've always been successful all the way into building premier online marketing is something that I've always been a fan of, and I do myself. And that is, a lot of marketing is exploration and experimentation. And then when you find the things that work, but there are a lot of people that stop exploring. They'll keep experimenting when something new comes out. But the exploration time right now is really critically important. And that's essentially a lot of what you're saying here is that there's a new frontier, and you've got to put that explorer hat back on and make sure that you're doing those things in those environments that are new to find out how they're going to affect your business. Because I also tend to agree with you that I think things are going to even get better. It's just going to be different, and change management's usually difficult for a lot of people.
Yeah,
I really want to extend a big thanks, Mike. I always appreciate it, folks. That's a wrap on today's episode of the POMCAST. And of course, we always love having Mike here because he's the one that drops all the best information, delivering all these sharp, honest, really poignant insights into the future of what's happening in this digital space, which just is always changing. But if today's conversation got your ears listening, tuning in, if you got your gears moving real fast and thinking deeply, well, don't forget, subscribe to the content that you see here. If you're on YouTube, of course, that's an easy place. Leave a review, drop a comment, share the episode with your fellow marketers. Make sure your CMO knows about this so that they can actually make some really good decisions. And of course, go out and follow all of Premier Online Marketing on LinkedIn. We'll be back soon with more tactical takes and strategies and unfiltered truth right from Mike Shaug's brain. And until next time, we'll keep testing and exploring and experimenting and learning and challenging the norm. And we'll see you again before long, right back here on the podcast. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Shaug.